Thank you so much, Colleen. Good day, everybody. My name is Hume. Thank you so much for joining us for this conversation on personal branding and why it matters to your career and to your career success. And when I say career, I'm talking about any professional business or leadership goal that you have set for yourself. Now, this is a topic that I'm really passionate about. And I think it's because of my own embodied experience of having to get clear about my own personal brand and to build real expertise and not just know some stuff, but to build expertise and to also build credibility and authority around my expertise in order to carve out the career that I wanted for myself. And I wasn't even clear what that career was when I started on this personal branding journey. But the clients I've been working with over time, I needed them to know that I am credible and that they could listen to me because many of them were older. Some of them were senior political figures, diplomatic figures, and they were listening to a young person just out of university. So I had to make sure that I am not just building expertise, but being credible as well. Now, I have to confess something to you though, that if I had to do my career over, I would have done it completely differently. I would have chosen the same theme, the same career, but I would have approached it differently because I was trying to elevate my career in the wrong way. At every juncture of my career, I felt stuck. I felt unfulfilled. The unfulfillment was like a buzz in the background for me all the time. And I felt that I could achieve more. I felt I could do more. I felt that I should be further along financially, and I'm sure some of you can relate to that. And I also felt that I could accomplish a little bit more, but I didn't know what to do. And my solution was always the same. It was maybe I need to find another job. So I would go hunting for another job. Or I would say, maybe I need to do another degree or another qualification. So I'd go do this certification and I would do the other certification. And I felt that I was wearing blindfolds, really. I felt like I was groping around in the dark when it came to career choices. And I'm going to admit something to you because many of us are doing it. I did a PhD because a former professor of mine, who I have the utmost respect for, he suggested it. And I thought it was a great idea. I thought he was offering me a job, but he said, you should do a PhD. And I thought it was a good idea. So I went off to New Zealand and I did that. So by the time I was finished with my brand as a PhD candidate, I was back to square one wearing those blindfolds again because I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't have a plan as to how to use this PhD as a strategic tool. I absolutely was lost. My next blindfold I had on, I think, was professional experience. I'd had over 2 decades of professional experience in the communication industry across industries, politics, entertainment, media. And so I thought that would get me the career outcomes that I was seeking. However, it did not. I remember 2 years, within 2 years of accepting this job as a professor in Rhode Island at RW, I was moving from Australia and I wrote my resignation and I saved it on the desktop of my computer. 2 years, of getting the job. And I flew home to Jamaica to have some high-level meetings because the former Prime Minister of Jamaica suggested that I return home to run for office. And so I left, I went home to have all sort of meetings to make a plan to run for office. But I think the biggest blindfold I had on, I call it institutional affiliation. I felt that whatever job I had, whatever place I was working, that was my brand. So when I was a journalist, I was a television newsreader, and then I was a radio announcer, a specialist newsreader on Radio Jamaica, Fame FM. That was my brand. And when I was a publicist for one of the popular entertainers in Jamaica, great guy, I thought that was my brand as well because I was very well known in the entertainment industry. Then I was a political speechwriter for a couple of the young senators in the government of Jamaica. And that was my brand again. I thought they needed a brand because they're running for office. They're the ones trying to sell records. And so I thought they needed a brand. I didn't need one because I already had one. I thought my brand was a job I was in. So even though I was well connected, I had a robust professional reputation and I was highly qualified. It still did not give me the career outcomes I was seeking. So that buzz came back all the time. And I think I was really trying to figure out what I'm meant to do. So the discomfort of a lack of clarity was very strong. And I think that's where a lot of us are, whether you're in business, whether you're in leadership, or whether you're just a professional trying to navigate your way, we are wearing blindfolds. And I call them blindfolds because I'll show you what they look like. These are they: academic qualifications, job experience, the job title or the role that we're in, the institution that we're a part of. If we work at Meta or Google or Radio Jamaica or we attend Harvard, we believe that that will carry us. And remember that your brand, when you accept a job, you take your brand to that employer. And when you leave that job, you also take your brand with you. But that's not how many professionals are thinking about it. And if you go on LinkedIn, you will see the biggest praise you will get on LinkedIn is if you put up that you have a new position, or if you have a new job, or if you're doing another qualification, any certification at all, whereas I'm looking at LinkedIn and I'm thinking, yes, I understand you have done a period of study, but I can't get a sense of the value that the person can deliver. I'm not getting a sense of what their real skills are or who they are. And I think all of us are wearing those blindfolds. Because remember, in terms of academic qualification, I call it the biggest blindfold because a communication degree, for example, I teach communication. It doesn't tell an employer whether the person can actually write or the person can speak or they can create a communication strategy. It just communicates that they have undergone a period of study. In the same way that a medical license will not tell you that your doctor is capable or not, because what the doctors sell is board certification. I'm board certified and I'm doing this for 30 years. And on the basis of that, we blindly go to the doctor and we trust that they know what they're doing because we don't get a sense of what their skill set is. And so for me, the biggest takeaway that if you don't remember anything else from this session, remember that career outcomes, the career outcomes that we seek is demanding that you focus on your own personal brand, and especially the unique and impactful value that you can deliver in your industry, no matter what space you operate in. If you operate in the classroom, if you're a freelancer, if you run a business, it doesn't matter. Whatever space you're in, you have to demonstrate what your own value is. Because one of the challenges that we're seeing is that these blindfolds, this qualification, this job experience, these job titles, they are not positioning us in the strongest ways in order to get the outcomes that we seek. So we have to have another method. We have to find another means. And I believe that what I want to discuss with you guys today is a conversation where you think of your personal brand, defining it, leveraging it as the correct prescription for the future that you want, whether it's in business, whether it's in leadership, whether it's in the professions. And you see your personal brand as something that is a strategic tool, a career management strategy, and not simply a self-promotional tool. So what I want for you today is to get some insights into what is truly a personal brand, why it matters to your career growth, and how to go about actually uh, defining and positioning your own personal brand. And as an expert in your field, because everybody has a qualification. Most people come to you with a certification. A lot of people are going to have the same professional experience that you have in business and leadership in the professions. How do you differentiate yourself and communicate your value? So let's get into it. So it's your turn. I would love for you to communicate with me in the chat and tell me one word. Tell me the first word that comes to mind when you hear the word personal branding. Write it in the chat for me. What is the first, don't even think about it. First word that pops into your head when you hear personal branding. Let me see if I'm seeing everybody here. Purpose, Asia, thank you. Nice to see you. Skills. Sean says elevator pitch. I think this is Davina says skills. How others view me. Genevieve Gordon says how others view me. Can I get a couple more responses? Fancy. Angela says fancy when you hear the word personal brand. Self-promotion. Thank you, David. Rose says you think of yourself. Brilliant. I mean, and it is true. When most of what the gurus are putting out is that you should promote yourself. And that's usually, and I'm glad Thelma says value, because that is where we want to go. How you see yourself. Thank you so much, Pamela. You know, one of the things I realize that the biggest blindfold of them all is social media. Because the biggest mistake that professionals make, entrepreneurs make, leaders make, is to see their personal brand as equating it with their social media. And they believe that all they need to do to build a strong personal brand is to get on LinkedIn, tweak it, make sure they're putting out posts, attracting a following, and the number of likes that they get, if they have a lot of following, then they believe they have a strong brand. Or if they see somebody with a lot of likes and a lot of following, then in their mind, that's a strong personal brand right there. I probably get 9 likes on my photos, and my students love to say, didn't I tell you not to post at 8 a.m.? Nobody cares. Nobody's on. But my focus is not likes and following, and I don't think that should be your focus as well. And I tell you why it's a problem. It's a problem because when you think of your personal brand, social media is it's like putting on the roof of a house first. You have to have a strong foundation, and then you communicate your value using social media. So social media is really just a communicative tool that you can use to convey your brand. Because remember that before social media existed, people were building really strong personal brands, and they didn't have social media to convey it. They were conveying their brand in different ways. And I understand the confusion, because the word brand comes out of the world of marketing. And when they were distinguishing products in the American West, and if we really go back to chattel slavery, Black people were also branded on the skin to differentiate them when they were being sold to different plantations across the Caribbean and the United States. But people are not products. People are complex organisms with unique emotions, unique upbringings. We have different ways in which we show up in the world. We have different skill sets. We have different personalities. So you can't simply think of yourself as a commodity and simply promote the commodity. That's not a wise way to look at your personal brand. So why don't we really talk about what a personal brand really is about? This is how I want you to think of your personal brand. Your personal brand is you. Plain and simple, YOU. It is who you are at your core and the unique value that you bring to the table in your industry. And I'll say that again, your personal brand is you. It is who you are and the unique value that you bring to the table in your industry. And that's why I'm saying it's not your job title, because you will, when you leave the job, you want to ensure that you take your brand with you, and that brand is strong no matter where you go, because you're actually in a transaction with your employer. You've loaned your brand to them in exchange for compensation, for proper working conditions, et cetera, right? So you want to think of your brand in terms of, I love to say, take an architectural approach. I attended a kindergarten school in Jamaica, in St. Anne, Higgins down for those who are Jamaican. And it was raised because it had, the ground was clay, and we used to play underneath it. And I remember it was raised on several pillars because the ground was so unstable. So when you build your brand like so on social media, it's really like you're putting on the roof of a house first without the solid foundation. So you want to think of the foundation of your brand, which are the key assets of your brand. And the first aspect of it is your human skills. It is your personal attributes, especially those parts that you think of as a strength. You also want to think of your technical skills. These are the things that you go to school for. And a lot of people, this is where they live. If you ask, tell me about yourself, they start telling you what they do, not who they are. And that's important to have skills, but you have to start with who you are first, because who you are kind of manifests itself in what you do and how you do it. And then there is experience. And when I say experience, I'm not talking about just the depth and breadth of your professional experience. That's great that you have that. But I am talking about your lived experience as well. A lot of us on this chat, we have been on the earth for a long time. Some of you are parents. You have experienced a lot of things. Some of us have made mistakes, and we have learned great lessons from those mistakes. Those are lessons, those are assets that you can use to make a better situation, that you can use to advise others, that there are things that you would have done differently. Those are aspects of yourself which, if you limit yourself just to a job title and your experience or your professional qualification, it doesn't allow you to convey the full value that you can deliver in whatever space that you're in. We also have to talk about your core values. Every decision that you've made in your life, think about it. Whether consciously or unconsciously, you've made those decisions based on what you believe, the principles that you live by. And even if you're not consciously thinking about it, if you observe the way that people operate, think of your colleagues and your clients and the people that you encounter. The way that they operate tells you a lot about what their values are. It tells you a lot about how they're going to operate. If you were to hire them, if they were to work with you, if you were to be employed by you, they know you don't have to ask them what their values are, because it shows up in their behaviors. And the last thing I want to say on this, which sometimes we ignore, is the perception of others. Now, you can say a lot of great things about yourself, and we'll believe, but if you want to create a strong brand, the other people who encounter your brand also have to have the same opinion of you. Now, if their opinion differ, if you think you're great and they don't think you're that great, then I don't think you can say you have a strong brand. Your brand becomes more robust when what you're saying about yourself is equivalent, at least, to how other people are perceiving you. A friend of mine asked me recently, how does she show up on Facebook? What is her brand in terms of what I'm seeing? I said, well, you're a mama bear. You only post about your son. So we see that you're a great mother. I can't comment on anything about your professional life. I don't know what value you deliver in the space that you operate in, but I know inside your house, you're an excellent mother and partner to your husband, because that is what she was conveying to us. Now, why does your personal brand matter? Why do you need it? Why am I here harping about personal branding? Think of the entrepreneurs in the room. Think of it. You have a stream of other entrepreneurs selling the same products. How do you stand out? What makes you different? Why should we pick you and not the other person to buy their product, buy your product or your service? For those of you who are on the job market seeking a job, there are 10 people lined up for the same job. They have the same qualification, they have the same experience. How do you stand out? How do you differentiate yourself? If you're trying to land a contract, if you're a consultant, how do you stand out? If you want to elevate in leadership in your career or in your organization, and there are other people who are equally qualified to be the leader, how do you differentiate yourself? And that's what personal branding does. It gives you that clarity that you need to separate and differentiate yourself. And first of all, it builds credibility. For me, I see 10 skilled people. I'm going to work with the one I trust. And I also say it inspires leadership. If I will listen to your ideas, if I will listen to your opinion, if you come across as really trustworthy, because everybody has a degree these days or a certification of some sort. And if 5 people come with the same certification or the same experience, I'm going to go with the person that I trust. I'm going to go with the person whose values I share. And if you want to attract your ideal clients and ideal opportunities, then you have to get clear about what your personal brand is. And for me, when I was trying to thrust my business onto to diplomats and politicians and say, this is how I can help you, then it is important that they trust what I'm saying, not that I have a degree and simply you're assuming that I can do whatever I'm doing. I must be able to cultivate a strong relationship with you, and your personal brand helps you to connect and to collaborate with influential partners that can push your career or business forward. Because every stage of your business or your career, they're gatekeepers. Look at it. You want to land a contract, there's somebody in the way that has to make that decision. You want another job, there's somebody who's the gatekeeper, and they're the ones making the decision whether to choose you or someone else. Your personal brand gives you an edge up because it gives you the opportunity to clarify who you are, what you bring to the table, and then you're able to articulate that in a more effective way rather than studying canned responses from the internet and hoping against hope that they like what you say. What we're hoping is that you create a conversation where they are able to get to know who you are in a real way, so you don't have to be studying a response. You're able to articulate who you are in a better way. For entrepreneurs in the room, it humanizes your business. These days, with the internet, with the information age, we really don't want to just buy a product. We want entrepreneurs to get from behind their products and their services. We want to know who you are because the future of business is personal. We're not just buying because the price is lower. We are watching our coins. We want to make sure that we are buying quality and you're offering quality. And so we want to get to know you. You're selling clothes, you're selling African clothes. We want to know, what does this mean? We want to know about African culture. We want to know where your fabric came from. We want to hear the story. Pull us in. That is how you sell the products that you have. If you are working on a construction site, you have to show up on time. You want to show your employer that you're committed to this task. You don't just call out of work because that is communicating that you're not a serious person. Then you can command higher salaries. Everybody knows that. If they view you that you can offer value, then you can command higher salaries. You can put premium prices on your products because people understand that if they want quality, they'll pay for it. All of this gives you self-confidence. Everything, when you pull it all together and you start to own that value, then you feel more confident. And because I worked with politicians in the past, I have to say that it can restore your image as well. Because when you build up stores of favorability, that's what personal branding does. It builds up stores of favorability over time. And then if something goes wrong, if you make a mistake, it doesn't kill your career, it doesn't kill your business because you can bank on the stores of favorability that you have developed over time, the perceptions that people already have of you, and they will be willing to alter their opinion or their judgment of you because they know who you are. And this one mistake that you've made, it doesn't define you. It doesn't define the entirety of your career or your business. When do you know when to build a personal brand? Some people know that they need some clarity in their career, but they're not sure when it's time to actually build this personal brand. And usually for me, I say, if there's a misconception about you, if you feel that you are overlooked for opportunities, that you should have been tapped for this opportunity, or you should have landed that role or that client, then there must have been some misconception about you. And this is time when you want to clarify what your brand is so that you can stave off those misconceptions. If you want to pivot within your company, say you're in the finance department and you want to move into communication, or you want to move upstairs in an administrative role, then you need to figure out what your personal brand is. If you're feeling stuck, and this was me feeling stuck, then I had to come back to the drawing table to figure out what my personal brand is. If you're seeking a promotion, if you're in leadership and you want higher level leadership, or you want to be trusted by your team as a leader, if you feel like you're getting some imposter syndrome and you're not feeling confident in your role as a leader, it's time to come back to the drawing board and figure out what your value is so that you can communicate that to them. And people meet you where they are. You meet them where they are, and they will meet you where you're at. But if you are in pretense mode and just winging it, then it's not going to work out for you. And if you're just starting out in your career and you want to build a strong foundation, you want to go in knowing exactly what you're focusing, rather than being tethered to a job description, you want to know what value you can deliver. If you're switching jobs, if you're unemployed and you want to recalibrate your career after a job loss, then this is time to think of your personal brand. If you're a consultant and you're selling products and services, they have to know you. They have to trust you in order to be able to buy your service. They will go elsewhere. I had a woman from the United Nations who reached out to me. She was in Tanzania. At the time, I think she was working in the Congo, an attorney. She spoke French. I do not know a word of French. And I remember she said, I saw you on LinkedIn and I like how you speak clearly. That's what she said. You speak clearly. I can understand you because my English is not strong. And we worked together over several months trying to get her to feel confident in her role in that project she was working on with the UN. And if you're clarifying your direction, I was a multi-skilled person and I needed to clarify my direction. I had blindfolds on, did not know what to do next. And I had to come back to the drawing table to get clear. And I wanted my clients to know what the common thread in my varied an employer. I was applying for a job one time and the dean said my resume was eclectic. I didn't find it was a compliment. It wasn't a compliment. What he meant was that you're all over the place. I did not get that job. And for me, it was a watershed moment. I had to figure out, okay, I need to find the common thread in my career. I need them to see that across the diverse sectors that I've worked, there's just one clear value that I am delivering. Next thing. Now is your turn again. How do you build your brand? And forget about social media. You notice I did not even include it as part of the pillars of your brand. It's just a tool to convey your brand once you've discovered what it is. So this is my proven strategy. I've worked with hundreds of professionals over the last 25 years, and this is a formula that works every time. So I'm going to give you some insights into it. And the first thing I'd want you to do is, can you write in the chat for me and tell me, what is the strongest personality trait that you have? The one that serves you as a strength. In my workshops, I would have you do much more, but for the purposes of this conversation, tell me one. Somebody says, Emma says, trustful. That one serves you. Can you think of an example of a time that because you are trustworthy, then this worked out for you? Because this is the core of building a personal brand. You have to figure out what your authentic self is. I know we overuse the word authentic self, but your authentic self is your personality traits. I know we have many personality traits, but I'm talking about the one that serves you as a strength. I'm a determined person. And I know that because I'm determined and I'm a confident person. I wasn't always confident, but I am confident now. If I'm determined, I'm going to get it done no matter what obstacle, I know that about myself. And so that works for me. Paul says dependable. That is excellent. If you are dependable, that will open a lot of doors for you. Marcia says outspoken. Outspoken can also be an Achilles heel. So I'd have to work with you, Marcia, to see how we could put on exactly when you say outspoken, what exactly do you mean so that it's not read as a negative. Sincere, Leslie Ann says she's sincere. David says occupy space, but occupy your space is not a personality trait, David. You want to say confident. Are you a confident person? Are you assertive person? So you're saying you occupy space. So I'm assuming that you mean that you're a confident person. Marsha is saying sometimes it doesn't work for her. True, being outspoken, you have to balance that. I remember a guy said to me once that he was simple, and I said, I'm not sure you want to use the word simple because it may land on people in a different way. So in my workshops, I try to get you to talk about what your human skills are and to show that it is a strength. Meaning, can you bring up an example where being trustworthy was useful as a strategic tool in a particular situation? Asia says patient. I do not have any patience, Asia. So you may have to share some of your patience with me. And that's a weakness, I would say, for myself. And I'm working on that. Zuri says detailed. Is detailed a personality trait though, or is it more of a functional technical skill? It is something that I would have to think about some more. Thank you so much for that. The next part of your brand or your authentic self has to be your core values. So write down what your core values are. Give me one core value that's really strong. It is what principles do you live by? What do you believe? I believe in excellence. And so I give quality service. Everything I do has to be excellent. It has to be well done. It has to look excellent. I demand excellence from my students. And so I work through that prism. Two people says integrity and excellence. Somebody said honesty. Mangaza says honesty. Let me see if I'm missing anything here. A lot of people saying integrity. Integrity and character is good. Accountability, Zuri says accountability. David says fairness. Remember, people can't see inside of us. Paul says quality work. And if you believe in quality work, you're going to give quality work. You're not going to stop until the work is pristine. Sometimes it may make you a little anal, but you will know when to stop fixing something that is perfect. But people can't see inside of us. And so the manifestation of our brand comes from what they see us do. So many times our values come from what people see us do. And that is why if you're doing a job interview, I would say always start with who you are. Because once you start talking about your technical skills, they will already be clear that your values are showing up in the way you do your work, the way that you approach your work, and the results that you get. And somebody's saying commitment. That means you will show up in the same way, 8 o'clock in the morning, as you do 10 p.m. at night. And if you can also communicate that to your clients, to your team, to your potential employers, if you're looking a job, also for those who are entrepreneurs selling products and services, a lot of my clients I get from matching their values because I'm not going to work with somebody who doesn't share my values. I cannot. It is a misalignment. It's difficult to work in an environment where the values that they believe in, you don't share those values as well. And if you're a leader, this is where you get the team to work with you. If you can understand what their values are and they can understand your values and you're more aligned, and the team will build that social capital that they need to work work together. And who doesn't need resilience? Thank you, Adolphus, for that one, that when we get beaten up, that we don't stay down. And you have to be able to communicate that, not just what you study, not just the experience, but who you are as a human person. After the pandemic, human skills are becoming more important to communicate. They used to call them soft skills. I don't believe they're soft. They're not hard, but they're not soft. They're human attributes that are skills. So I've been calling them human skills. Now, this is where people love to start, but I'm imploring you to start with who you are. What is your unique skills? What are you good at? And when I say good at, it doesn't mean only the technical stuff that you learn in school, but what are you good at? And if you could write in the chat for me, what are you good at? I remember this client told me that he became very good. He's a corporate executive, but he became very good at he remodeled his bathroom and he developed all that skill. And so he became excellent at that. He plays tennis, excellent at that. So there are other skills that are dormant that we used to be good at when we were younger or when we were in high school, that for some reason we take on these jobs and we do these degrees. And then when people ask us what we're good at, we simply only communicate the technical stuff that we go to school for, whereas we probably are good at a whole range of things. Pamela says she's good at listening. And one of the things I say to people who are good listeners, and I'm envious because I don't think I listen as well as I could, so it's my New Year resolution. Uh, the the people who say they're good at listening, I wonder sometimes if you should be speaking up, or being such a good listener prevents you from joining the conversation. And you don't want to be that person who is perceived as not being as too reticent. So make sure that you're also contributing even while you are displaying good listening skills. Angela says she's good at writing and storytelling. Coach Genevieve has a lot of skills. Entrepreneurship is too wide, it's too big a place, it's too big a world. So you'd have to uh, get very granular. And what I advise clients to do is to niche down, because entrepreneurship is so wide. Writing is also wide. Are you a news writer, or are you good at blogging? Do you write copy for advertising? Are you good? What kind of writing are we? Is it report writing? And when you say helping others, that is also a big place. And it's important to niche down with each of those skills you want to. And in my practice, we tend to get really granular, because a lot of people see communication as a skill, but is it speaking? Is it writing? What are we talking? Is it communication strategy? Is it crisis? What are we talking about when we say you're good at communication? I suffer from being eclectic. Confession is good for the soul, Genevieve. So we can figure that out and niche down and help you to find what is that common thread or line throughout all of those skills that you have. And I think I suffered from the same affliction until I got clarity around my personal brand. And one of the best ways of niching down and figuring out where you stand is what problem can you solve? What what problem does your leadership solve? What problem are you solving for your clients, for the customers that patronize your business? How are you helping them? There is a problem that they have. You may not immediately know what that is, but you have to communicate with them. And then there is the solution. And when you have the solution, you are in the middle. You are the thinking being in the middle. That's why they hire consultants, because consultants can think through the problem, create a strategy, because the organization needs a solution. If you go to a job interview, there is a problem that the organization has, and you can position yourself as the solution to that problem. So, in the interest of time, I'll move quickly through the rest of it now. You have to position as an expert in your field because there are tons of people who are writers or accountants or good at entrepreneurship or good at the multiple things that you say you're good at. But expertise is not just what you know. Expertise is also what you share. If we don't know that you know, you're not an expert. We're going to move on to the other person who is showing up, who is, oh my goodness, that person is very good. They're showing up, they're speaking up in a meeting. So we're going to choose that person because we're lazy. We're going to pick the person who is indicating some skill. And if you are skilled, but you're in the background and not visible, then sometimes it doesn't help. Before you communicate value, because a lot of people love to communicate on social media, demonstrate your value offline first. And when I say demonstrate your value, showcase results, your portfolio of work. You have a portfolio of work. When people say keep building your resume, that's what they mean. Ideally, what have you achieved? What skill did you harness to achieve that? And what was the result? Can you show case studies? Can you show testimonials? I know performance reviews can be very political, but they can offer insights into how your employer sees you. For good or bad, it offers some insight into where they are. And remember, some of them are the gatekeepers. When customers write on Yelp, or they write under your post, or they write negative reviews, it also gives you an insight into what they're thinking, and it gives you an opportunity to edit and adjust. I would say contribute ideas. Lead the project. Don't just participate in the project, also lead the project. Don't just follow the conversation. A lot of people repost stuff on LinkedIn. Why don't you participate in the conversation? Add your thoughts as well. For me, a boss of mine had said, where I created a workbook on personal branding, and he said, "Where's the book to the workbook?" And I felt ashamed because I did not have a book. I didn't have anything to demonstrate my expertise in personal branding. So I got to work and created the brand new book. Also, volunteer. There's nothing wrong with volunteering your services. If you believe in climate change, why aren't we seeing you at the climate change rally? If you believe in DEI and equity, why aren't we seeing your voice in those conversations? So you have to show up and you have to raise your voice and raise your visibility. Then you have to communicate your value. Now, this is going to look differently for other people. For everybody, this is looking differently. If you're a physician, communicating your value would probably mean communicating to the nurse on your team, or it means for the nurse, it may mean communicating directly to the physician who you're working with. For me, communicating my value as a communicator, it's speaking. And I lean into my strength here. So my strategy is always to speak. I'm quicker to speak than to write, even though I write as well. But I'm a speaker, hands down. It's my strength. So I lean into that. So the opportunities I have taken and been afforded have been a lot of speaking opportunities. It may be different for you. If you're a writer, you need to have a blog. You need to create a body of work. You need to start putting out content. Don't wait to be writing for the big magazine. Put out content to show your value. If you are working in leadership, you have to communicate to your team. They have to know what you can deliver. If you're an entrepreneur, we need to know why you're selling what you're selling. Why are you delivering this service? Who are you as a leader, as a consultant, as an entrepreneur? Why should we hire you for this contract and not the other guy down the road? So that is very, very important to doing that. You don't have to be online. I say this a lot. I mean, it's good to be visible, but it's not, you don't need a website. You can optimize your LinkedIn, and you have to go where if your audience is on TikTok, then that's where you need to be. It doesn't make sense you're over on LinkedIn if your audience, they are over on TikTok. You won't find me on TikTok because I'm a good dancer, by the way, but I'm not. My personality doesn't lend itself to be dancing on TikTok. So I don't have a TikTok account. My people are on LinkedIn. My people are in the classroom. My people are the politicians who are not on online. So I have to talk to them offline. Where your audience is where you need to be. And discover them, study them, find ways to meet them where they are. Quick success stories. Janelle Benjamin, she was studying the law and she has a law degree, did not want to be a lawyer. She saw another lawyer that she went to law school with, whose brand was looking brilliant. I worked with that client and she called to say she wants a brand just like that. And she was interested in policy, equity in Canada. And she took everything I said to heart. She was my best student. And she is now really successful as a voice in the Canadian space. She's being quoted in the newspapers. She's on television in Canada talking about equity. As she said, her work, people are ready to work with her. She is getting a lot of opportunities from actually establishing her subject. And we worked on her messaging and how she could communicate her value. And she really took it on. Second person, this wonderful guy, ex-military, works at a power company in Chicago. He wanted to aspire to upper management. The people in upper management were lawyers, so he decided to do a law degree. They played tennis, so he played tennis until he met me, and we decided that you come with something else to the table. He put military stuff at the bottom of his resume. We moved it to the top and we showed how to pivot. There are some aspects of military leadership that would work and there are aspects that won't work. And so we had to work on what is your niche? What skill are you going to bring to the table? What problem can you solve within this organization? How do you communicate that to your employers? And within a year, he got the promotion that he was seeking. Really brilliant guy. This is a local lady, a social, what do you call it? Social worker, therapist. She had a lot of caseload, just really heavy caseload. And she wanted to work with her clients with a methodology that worked for her, a methodology which was clear, rather than just using any tool at all in the bag. And so we worked on what those therapeutic methodologies are. And I suggested merchandise. And now I have in my cart a hoodie with rest on it because that's the one that resonated the most with me. So she reimagined her mental health practice and work with the kinds of strategies that she wanted to convey. And now she's developing merchandise around those things as well. So finally, if you want to build a brand, start with your authentic self, who you are and the value you bring to the table, your human skills and your core values. When you pair that with your capability, what you can actually do and what your skills can actually solve for your clients, for your customers, for your team, for your colleagues, for your employers, it builds credibility. And that's what builds trust and loyalty. But that's not enough. You have to get visible. You have to come from behind your products and your services and let your audience know who you are. So you have to communicate, find the strategies that work. In my program, we work with you with the granular stuff. We get into the nitty-gritty. We do messaging as well and tell you exactly what to say in that interview and how to communicate that value. And then you also have to build community. Nobody achieves anything alone. So you have to make sure that you're connecting with other people as well. I hope that you had seen that poll question when you joined the Zoom. If you did not, I want to find out from you. You can write it in the chat. What's the biggest career challenge that you're facing right now? If you can see the poll, you can quickly do that for me. Is it balancing work and life priorities? Is it gaining recognition for your talent? Is it overcoming imposter syndrome? For a lot of people, they could achieve more if they weren't doubting themselves. Is it navigating a career transition or a job loss? Is it finding meaning in your work or, whatever it is? If you could let us know what that is, that would be excellent. I do one-on-one coaching and you can explore my coaching programs. I can literally do defining your authentic self, and that is entirely one program. If you want to focus on the skills that you have and how to match that with the organizational imperative or what your clients need. And we also help you to work on how do you communicate your value, whether it's to your team, to your clients, to your customers, or if you have a job or to prepare for an interview. We do a whole job interview simulation. It's a little nerve-wracking, but it's best to be in a safe environment where you can articulate your value and get feedback from industry professionals that come on this program. But it's an excellent program. You can check it out on my website. If you prefer something more hands-off, I have a personal branding masterclass. Everybody feel free to scan that QR code so that you can learn more about that. That's a full program. You get the program for a year. It has a lot of tools, a lot of videos, a lot of templates. When we talk about what exactly to say when you are going up for a promotion, or when you want to communicate something, or if you are leading a team and there's conflict, we have a lot of strategies, a lot of templates that you can use to communicate your value in various situations. Seeing what time it is. We have about 5 minutes, and you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm Dr. Hume Johnson in most of the places. I am Dr. Hume Johnson, 𝐷RHUMEJOHNSON. It's not hard to find me. And I may have time for a couple questions. We have about 5 minutes left, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have. You can write your questions in the chat, and let me see if I can take a minute to answer those. Biggest challenge is to decide whether to go back to work, corporate, or focus solely on my startup ventures and how to balance both. I mean, you're talking my language, Genevieve. You can send me an email and we can set up a consultation because you have to figure out where you want the plane to land. That's my analogy for everything. When the clients enter the room, where are we going? What is the destination? Where do you want your plane to land? And sometimes it's best not to have a destination in mind. Don't pick it first. Let's figure out what your brand says, because your brand is literally the map, and it shows you what your destination should be. All right. So my email is Hume Johnson, my full name, HUMEJOHNSON, and you can book on my website. Go to humejohnson.com, HUMEJOHNSON, and you can book a time over there. All right. Is there any questions? I have time for at least one more question. Nope. Very informative. Thank you. Thank you so much, Diane. My email address is humejohnson@gmail.com, and everything, you can connect with me on humejohnson.com. If you just go to my website, then you can be in touch. Thank you so much, Karen. Thank you so much, Emma. Merci beaucoup. Très bien. How do you respond in French, Angela? You say thank you. I will say what? I cannot speak French to save my life. Thank you so much, Leslie. Thank you, Coach Genevieve. Dorion. I remember that from one semester of French. Dorion. Thank you. Thank you guys so much. Thank you. All right, that's where we will leave it for today, guys. Remember, it's never too late, never too early, and never too late to reinvent yourself and unleash your personal power. Feel free to connect with me at humejohnson.com, HUMEJOHNSON. I offer a free 15-minute consultation, and then you can discuss what your specific needs are, and we can take it from there. Thanks again, everybody. Bye-bye.